Square Enix, we need to talk. Please, 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 please do these 5 things if you want Final Fantasy to be great again. Bring back mechanical identity. Now, what do I mean by that? Every Final Fantasy, well, it's an anthology. So they're all unique and they all have their own unique hooks, like the Sphere Grid from 10, Gambit and License Board from 12, Materia in 7, the Junction System in 8, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. Even the original Job System. Nowadays, the series is just leaning way too much into generic skill trees, action RPG skill trees, and it doesn't feel distinct. Every old Final Fantasy used to feel distinctly that Final Fantasy. Now, every Final Fantasy just feels like a generic mashup of all these different open world games and action RPG games, and it doesn't really feel distinct. That word was distinct. So yes, please, Final Fantasy Square, bring back that uniqueness, those unique traits, those unique systems that made each Final Fantasy game just feel like its own thing, I guess. Number 2, please, for the love of God, stop chasing these Hollywood trends. Final Fantasy once truly embraced its surreal, hyper Japanese roots. It was so stylized, it was so uniquely and distinctly Japanese, and now it just wants to be this like Western HBO show where it's so gritty and grounded in realism and prestigious drama and political intrigue, and it kind of lost a lot of what made Final Fantasy. Look, it needs to lean into its stylization. It needs to lean into heart and weirdness, just straight up weirdness again. Instead of mimicking Western storytelling tropes. And there's nothing wrong with these Western storytelling tropes in a vacuum per se. It's how you implement it, but they don't know how to implement it into Final Fantasy. And to me, it just doesn't really fit all that well. Number 3, please, for the love of Odin, can you prioritize the party again? Final Fantasy 16, it's all about, the protagonist, that's who you're controlling. Final Fantasy used to be about who's going to be my next party member. Oh, this guy looks kind of cool. I wonder if he's going to join my party at some point. And you could control your party members. Now it's getting more singularly focused on just who you're controlling at any one particular time. The heart of past games were the team, not just in the storyline, but in the gameplay. And, you're seeing them grow and clash and bond and evolve and seeing what each one brought to the party. And you can create a lot of synergies that way. And even in the 7 remake, yes, you can switch to other party members, but it doesn't feel the same. Bring back some real party systems with gameplay depth and emotional arcs for everyone, not just the lead. Number 4, make the world matter again. Older Final Fantasies were about discovery, secret towns, riding on your chocobo all over the place, secret bosses that you just ran into, secret dialogue, secret little side quests, puzzle-filled dungeons, mini games, and overworld maps. Thank you, Expedition 33, for making overworld maps cool again. Look, the new games, they gave us some cool, visually breathtaking open worlds and open zones, but they felt pretty sparse. There wasn't a lot to do in them, and they were just kind of bland at the end of the day. Final Fantasy needs to create worlds worth exploring, and this is something that I love about the open world Zelda games, is because there's something around every corner. It's packed with things to do, with secrets to find. And if Final Fantasy wants to keep going in this open world, open zone direction, they really need to step it up in the department of content and just putting so much stuff to do that you get lost in the world. And they haven't done that, not for me at least, and probably not for a lot of you either. Number 5 is just a little more esoteric, a little more broad. Just be brave again. We look back on these classics like 7 and 9 and 10 and even 8, like they were just foregone conclusions that they would be great games, but they were risk-taking themselves, especially something like 8 with the junction system. And it's still pretty divisive, but that's what made each game unique. You know what I mean? That's what made each game an experience. We had to experience what the next final, like, okay, growing up, and I don't know, like the age range of the people that are subscribed to me, there are a lot of them are my age. So you guys know what it was like when a new Final Fantasy came out. It was like, what's this one going to offer that the other ones didn't? How's it going to be different? And it was always so different. And now they're starting to feel a little more homogenous action RPG skill trees like I just talked about. I'm not feeling that boldness, that courage to step outside of the box and be something new. When Final Fantasy went to a tropical setting and Final Fantasy X, we were all like, what in the world is this? We were used to steampunk and kind of future punk and medieval fantasy. But then we went like full on jungle vibes and it was awesome, you know? Like, that's what they need to bring back. And it's not there for me. I feel like they're chasing trends and they shouldn't be. They need to be starting trends. They need to be carving out their own path and their own lane again. And I feel like with the budget of games ballooning, they're scared to do that. And as my favorite coach, Mike Tomlin, would say, you don't live in your fears, right? We don't live in our fears. So those are 5 things that I really hope Square Enix, one day when they stumble upon my channel, they will take to heart. And I will give them 1 bonus, and I will give you guys 1 bonus. And it's actually the biggest point I want to make. It's going to be like, what? But you'll see. Square Enix and Final Fantasy, they need to start telling fairy tales again. Yes, fairy tales. Final Fantasy used to be like a storybook brought to life, even when the stakes were world ending and the story and the world were a little darker and grittier. It never lost that sense of wonder. Airships, chocobos, ancient ruins, and magical crystals. And yes, the new games have that stuff, but am I the crazy one that feels like they just put that stuff in the game to say, hey, this is a Final Fantasy game. Here's a Moogle. Now shut up. That's how I felt. It did not feel genuine to me. Let me know if it felt genuine to you. And I want to say something about fairy tales. Fairy tales endure. They endure time, centuries, millennia, because they aren't just stories. They carry timeless truths wrapped in imagination. They're filled with hope, loss, mystery, love, and moral clarity. I'm going to say that again. Moral clarity. Not moral grayness. This like middle ground of like who's really good and who's really bad. We're all good or we're all bad. No, it's moral clarity, all seen through the wide eyes of wonder. For example, Final Fantasy IV, it's about a dark knight who becomes a paladin through forgiveness and love. Final Fantasy VI, a girl who can speak to espers, helps a shattered world believe again. Even Final Fantasy VII, which was grittier and darker, is a band of misfits fighting against corporate greed, and they still had time to laugh and have fun and dream and even like ride snowboards. You know what I mean? It wasn't all doom and gloom. Even at their darkest, these games gave you magical forests, talking animals, floating continents, mystical summons. They felt like fairy tales, even if we didn't realize it at the time. They weren't just these grim political dramas. When you contrast that with something like Final Fantasy 16, which it executed its vision very well, expertly crafted. I love the voice acting. But it's so grounded in war, political drama and betrayal, the psychological trauma. It's so entrenched in all these negative emotions that the sense of wonder is almost gone completely because it's so oppressive. It feels like Game of Thrones meets this millennial nihilistic view of the world, when really Final Fantasy should feel like Shakespeare meets the never-ending story. Final Fantasy and Square needs to rekindle that inner child, that one that, you know, goes outside and the world looks so big and it's just full of possibilities and wonder. The child that truly believed that magic was real, that love could conquer and save the world, and that good, please, and listen to this, and that good and evil weren't just this gray area. That sometimes evil just does exist. There is evil characters. And every person has it in themselves to be good and pure and do the right thing. It doesn't always have to be morally gray. When Final Fantasy can do that, when it can tell a true fairy tale story again, it won't just be a great RPG, it'll be legendary. All right, thank you all for watching. Let me know if you agree with my analysis. This is something I think about a lot because I've made this kind of video more than once. But this one, I really feel like I kind of honed in and really articulated my thoughts a little more clearer than in my past videos. So let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. Would you replace any of these 6 points with any of your own? Would you add? Would you subtract? Just let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. Once again, I appreciate you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great day. Take care and God bless.